First contact and humiliation. Commander Elena Santos stood on the observation deck of Earth's flagship, the UES Resilient, watching the approaching alien vessels with a mixture of awe and unease. The alien ships resembled perfect geometric shapes, flawless platinum dodecahedrons that reflected starlight like mirrors, moving with impossible precision through space. "They're hailing us again, Commander," Lieutenant Park said from his communication station. "Same message as before." Elena nodded. For 3 days, the alien fleet had maintained position just beyond Mars' orbit, broadcasting the same message in perfect English. "Prepare for inspection. Resistance is unnecessary." "Put it on screen," she ordered. The alien that appeared on the main view screen looked almost human, except for the metallic sheen of its skin and eyes that glowed with an inner light that reminded Elena of fiber optic cables. He smiled with perfect white teeth. "I am Sentinel Vax of the Axiom Collective," the alien announced. "Your species has been marked for evaluation. We will determine if you merit continued independent existence or if you require supervision." Elena straightened her uniform jacket. "I am Commander Elena Santos of the United Earth Space Force. We welcome peaceful contact, but we do not submit to evaluations or threats." The alien's smile widened. "Charming. Your response has been noted and dismissed. Prepare your vessel for boarding." Before Elena could respond, the transmission ended. She turned to her second-in-command, Major Riza Khalid. "Battle stations. Alert Earth Command." "Do you think that's wise, Commander?" Riza asked quietly. "Their technology is clearly far beyond ours." "Maybe so," Elena said, "but they need to understand that humans don't roll over for anyone." 20 minutes later, Elena watched in horror as the Axiom ships neutralized the Resilient's defensive systems with contemptuous ease. A beam of golden light simply appeared inside the bridge, and Sentinel Vax stepped through as though walking through a doorway. "Primitive," he said, looking around the bridge with obvious disdain. He ran a finger along a console edge, examining it. "Physical interfaces. Manual controls. How quaint." Elena stepped forward. "This vessel represents the pinnacle of human engineering and engineering." Vax laughed, the sound like tinkling crystal. "You call this engineering? Your ship is a collection of repurposed parts, outdated systems, and—" He gestured toward a panel that had been recently repaired. "Patches upon patches." He shook his head. "The Axiom create perfection. We do not repair, we replace. We do not reuse, we improve." For the next 3 hours, Vax and his assistants moved throughout the ship, scanning everything, occasionally taking samples, and continuously making disparaging comments about human technology. They seemed particularly amused by the ship's recycling systems and the crew's pride in their ability to repair and maintain their equipment. "You actually celebrate this?" Vax asked, holding up a medal Elena had received for innovations in resource conservation. "Making more efficient use of refuse is an achievement for your species." When they finally departed, Elena felt like she had been through the most humiliating inspection of her career. She called an emergency meeting with her senior officers. "They're going to be a problem," she said simply. Lieutenant Commander Jasmine Chen, the ship's engineer, nodded grimly. They spent most of their time in engineering just laughing. Called our fusion drives adorably primitive, and seemed particularly amused by our maintenance procedures. Same in medical, Dr. Okafor added. They called our medical equipment barbaric, and offered to upgrade us by replacing our organic limbs with their synthetic ones. As a favor. Major Khalid pulled up footage from the ship's external cameras. "They're not just visiting us. Axiom ships are appearing in orbit around every major city on Earth." Elena watched the footage with growing dread. The perfect dodecahedron ships positioned themselves over Beijing, New York, Lagos, London, every major population center on the planet. The next day, Sentinel Vax addressed the United Nations. The broadcast was mandatory on every screen on Earth and throughout the solar system. "People of Earth," he began, his perfect face benevolent but condescending. "The Axiom Collective has completed its initial assessment of your civilization. You are," he paused for effect, "inadequate in your current state." Murmurs filled the General Assembly Hall. "Your technology is primitive and inefficient. Your reliance on repurposing outdated systems rather than creating new ones demonstrates a fundamental lack of vision. Your ships are particularly amusing, collections of scrap metal and recycled components held together by hope and improvisation." Elena, watching from the Resilient, felt her face burn with anger. "However," Vax continued, "we see potential in your species. Therefore, the Axiom Collective offers you a choice. Accept our guidance and governance, or face immediate technological restriction." The Secretary General stood. "And what exactly does technological restriction entail?" "We will simply disable your most advanced systems until you recognize the wisdom of our offer," Vax explained as though talking to a child. "It is for your own protection. Primitive species often harm themselves with technology they don't fully understand." "And if we refuse both options?" the Secretary General asked. Vax's smile never wavered. "That would be unfortunate. We would be forced to demonstrate our power more directly. You have 48 hours to decide." When the broadcast ended, Elena received an urgent message from Earth Command. "Report to Geneva immediately." 12 hours later, she found herself in a subterranean conference room with 24 of Earth's top military and scientific minds. General Hiroshi Tanaka, the head of Earth's Unified Defense Forces, led the meeting. "Our options are limited," he admitted. "Their technology is at least 3 centuries beyond ours. Conventional military response would be suicide." "So we just surrender?" Elena asked, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Dr. Annika Sharma, Earth's leading physicist, shook her head. "Not necessarily. We've been analyzing the Axiom ships. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also standardized. Perfect, yes, but uniform. They seem to have one way of doing things, the most efficient way." "Which means?" General Tanaka prompted. "They may have overlooked alternatives," Dr. Sharma explained. "Their systems are so advanced that they might be vulnerable to methods they consider too primitive to defend against." Major Khalid leaned forward. "Like how modern computer systems can sometimes be breached using obsolete protocols they weren't designed to guard against." "Exactly," Sharma nodded. "Their scans have been focused on our current technology. They've barely glanced at our museums or storage facilities." Elena felt a spark of hope. "So while they're busy mocking our current ships, they might be completely unprepared for what we could cobble together from technology they consider obsolete," Sharma finished. General Tanaka looked skeptical. "You're suggesting we fight an advanced alien species with outdated technology?" "Not just outdated," Elena said. "An idea forming. Repurposed. Recycled. Jury-rigged. All the things they mock us for. Every piece of junk they laughed at." "It's a long shot," Dr. Sharma admitted. "It's the only shot we have," Elena replied. General Tanaka considered for a long moment, then nodded. "Commander Santos, you just volunteered to lead this operation. What do you need?" Elena thought about the Axiom's perfect ships, their dismissal of humanity's primitive technology, their contempt for Earth's culture of repair and reuse. A plan began to form. "I need access to every decommissioned satellite, every mothballed military system, and every piece of obsolete technology we have in storage," she said. "And I need engineers who can think outside the box, way outside." "And a name for this operation?" Tanaka asked. Elena smiled grimly. "Operation Scrapheap." As the meeting adjourned, Elena caught Dr. Sharma by the arm. "Do you really think this could work? That our junk might have a chance against their perfection?" Sharma's eyes gleamed. "You know what they say, Commander. One person's trash is another person's treasure. Or in this case, one civilization's junk might be another's salvation," Elena finished. With less than 40 hours before the action's deadline, Operation Scrafheap began. Operation Scrafheap. Dawn broke over the Mojave Desert as Commander Elena Santos surveyed the makeshift shipyard that had sprung up overnight. What had once been a classified aircraft storage facility, colloquially known as the Boneyard, was now a hive of frantic activity. Engineers, scientists, and military personnel swarmed over dozens of decommissioned spacecraft and satellites, pulling them apart and reassembling them in configurations that would have made their original designers wince. "It's beautiful chaos," Lieutenant Commander Jasmine Chen said, appearing at Elena's side. Dark circles under her eyes testified to the sleepless night she had spent coordinating the engineering teams. "Will it work?" Elena asked bluntly. Chen shrugged. "Honestly, I don't know, but it's the most fun I've had since engineering school." Elena surveyed the closest vessel, a hybrid monstrosity that combined the frame of a decommissioned lunar shuttle with the propulsion system from an old orbital tug and weapon systems cobbled together from museum pieces and experimental prototypes that had been abandoned for more efficient designs. "The Axiom won't know what hit them," Chen said with fierce pride. "They're so focused on perfection that they've forgotten the value of the unexpected." Elena nodded. "How many ships can we field?" 37, if we're lucky. We're calling them the junkyard dogs." Chen gestured to where technicians were spray-painting crude dog silhouettes on the hulls of their makeshift fleet. Similar operations were underway around the world. In Baikonur, Russian and Kazakh engineers were retrofitting Cold War-era spacecraft with modern systems. In Bangalore, Indian scientists were repurposing communication satellites into electronic warfare platforms. In the Pacific, the Japanese had refloated a decommissioned aircraft carrier to serve as a mobile launch platform for jury-rigged spacecraft. The UN gave their answer to the Axiom an hour ago, Major Khalid reported, joining them. "They're stalling, asking for more time to consider the generous offer." "How did Vax take it?" Elena asked. "About as well as you'd expect. He extended the deadline by 12 hours as a final courtesy, but made it clear there won't be another extension." Dr. Sharma approached, tablet in hand. "Commander, we've completed our analysis of the Axiom communication protocols. They're using an incredibly sophisticated quantum encryption system, far beyond our capability to crack." "That sounds like bad news," Elena said. "It would be, except for one thing." Sharma's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Their system is so advanced that it completely ignores signals it deems too primitive to matter. It's like having a state-of-the-art security system that doesn't bother checking if someone's using the doggy door. And we have the equivalent of a doggy door. Better." Sharma held up her tablet showing a schematic of what looked like ancient radio equipment. "We have thousands of them. The Axiom ships don't even register analog radio signals. They are too focused on quantum communications." A slow smile spread across Elena's face. "So while they're listening for quantum whispers, we can be shouting at them with technology so old they don't even recognize it as communication," Sharma finished. The impromptu war council was interrupted by an alarm. Major Khalid checked his device and paled. "The Axiom just disabled the power grid across Eastern Europe. Vax says it's a demonstration of what technological restriction means." Elena's expression hardened. "Then we move now, before they decide to give us another demonstration." Within hours, Earth's ragtag fleet of repurposed ships was ready for launch. Elena stood in the makeshift command center, watching as reports came in from around the world. "This is crazy," Major Khalid muttered beside her. "We're going against the most advanced ships in the galaxy with what amounts to space junk." "That's the point," Elena replied. "They expect either surrender or a conventional defense. They're prepared for both. They're not prepared for." She gestured at the screens showing their cobbled-together fleet. "This Operation Scrafheap is a go," she announced over the comm. "All ships, launch when ready." One by one, the strange, hybrid vessels rose from launch sites around the globe. They weren't beautiful, not by conventional standards. They were asymmetrical, ungainly, with exposed components and mismatched parts. But they flew, and that was what mattered. Elena boarded the flagship, a heavily modified space station resupply vessel they had renamed Patchwork. Its bridge was a bizarre combination of cutting-edge holographic displays alongside analog gauges and manual controls. "The Axiom are tracking our launches," Lieutenant Park reported from his communication station. "They seem confused." "Good," Elena said, strapping into the command chair. "Confusion means they're off balance. Let's keep them that way." The Patchwork shuddered as its engines, a hybrid system combining conventional thrusters with experimental technology, propelled it into orbit. Around the world, the rest of the fleet was doing the same. "Axiom ships are moving to intercept," Major Khalid reported. "They're broadcasting warnings on all standard frequencies." "But not on our frequencies," Dr. Sharma added with a smile. "Our analog systems are completely invisible to them." The plan was simple, if desperate. The human fleet would attack not to win. That was impossible given the technology gap. But to prove a point, that humanity's primitive technology, their habit of reusing and repurposing, their celebration of improvisation, made them more adaptable than the Axiom could imagine. As the first Axiom ship came into view, a perfect platinum dodecahedron gleaming in the sunlight, Elena gave the order. "All ships, commence electronic warfare protocols. Let's show them what our primitive technology can do." Across the fleet, engineers activated systems that hadn't been used in decades: analog radio transmitters, microwave emitters, even modified versions of old radar jammers. None of these would have affected modern human ships, which were designed with countermeasures against such antiquated systems. But the Axiom, in their pursuit of perfection, had never bothered to defend against what they considered obsolete. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The perfect formation of Axiom ships began to waver. Their communications, dependent on quantum protocols that were now being drowned in a sea of primitive signals, became erratic. "It's working," Chen exclaimed, watching the sensor readings. "Their quantum communications are going haywire. They can't filter out our old signals. They never built in protection against them." Elena leaned forward. "All ships, advance and continue electronic assault. Weapons free, but focus on their communication nodes." The junkyard dogs charged forward, broadcasting their cacophony of obsolete signals. The Axiom ships, for the first time, seemed unsure how to respond. Some tried to establish defensive positions, but their perfect coordination was broken by the disruption to their communications. When the first weapons were fired, a bizarre mix of conventional missiles, repurposed mining lasers, and hastily adapted scientific equipment, the Axiom's response was sluggish and uncoordinated. "They don't know how to fight as individuals," Major Khalid realized. "They're so dependent on their perfect communication system that they can't adapt when it's compromised." A cheer went up as one of the junkyard dogs, a modified orbital construction vehicle, managed to attach itself to an Axiom ship and physically disrupt its sensor array. The perfect dodecahedron spun wildly before stabilizing, but its pristine surface was now marred. "Sentinel Vax is hailing us," Lieutenant Park announced. "He's using our standard frequencies now." "Put him through," Elena ordered. Vax's face appeared on screen, his perfect features now showing signs of strain. "What is this?" he demanded. "These vessels, these signals, they are obsolete, inefficient. They should not be effective." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "That's the thing about junk, Sentinel. It may not be pretty, but it's surprisingly useful in the right hands." "This is a temporary setback," Vax insisted. "The Axiom will adapt. Your primitive assault cannot succeed." "Maybe not," Elena agreed. "But it's certainly giving you something to think about, isn't it? By the way, we've identified the location of your command ship." Vax's expression flickered with what might have been concern. "Impossible. You'd be surprised what you can do with obsolete technology that's been creatively repurposed," Elena replied. "All ships, focus on the command vessel. Let's show the Axiom what human ingenuity can really do." As the Ragdig fleet converged on the Axiom command ship, Alina felt a surge of pride. Humanity might still lose this fight, but they would not surrender. And they would make damn sure the Axiom understood that underestimating humans and their junk technology was a serious mistake. The battle for Earth had begun. The final victory. 3 weeks into what was now being called the Scrafheap War, Commander Alina Santos stood on the bridge of the Patchwork, studying tactical displays of the Axiom homeworld. Getting here had seemed impossible just days ago, yet humanity's bizarre fleet of repurposed ships had accomplished the unthinkable. "I still can't believe we're actually here," Lieutenant Park murmured, voicing what everyone was thinking. The journey to this point had been chaotic and desperate. After the initial engagement in Earth orbit, where humanity's junkyard fleet had managed to disrupt and confuse the Axiom ships, the alien invaders had retreated to regroup. Alina had made the bold decision to pursue them, a strategy that many had considered suicidal. But something unexpected had happened. As the Axiom fell back to their staging areas throughout the solar system, Earth's Ragdig fleet had followed, continuously broadcasting their cacophony of obsolete signals. And with each engagement, the humans learned more about Axiom weaknesses while improvising new solutions from their limited resources. "They never adapted," Dr. Sharma observed, joining Alina at the tactical display. "They tried to develop countermeasures against our specific techniques, but they couldn't grasp our fundamental approach." "They don't understand improvisation," Alina agreed. Each Axiom solution was perfect for exactly one problem. Once we changed our approach, they had to start over. The most crucial turning point had come when a small scout ship, originally a decommissioned satellite repair vehicle, had managed to capture an Axiom courier vessel. Inside, they found navigation data that revealed the location of the Axiom homeworld, and more importantly, confirmed their growing suspicion. The Axiom Collective was not the vast galactic empire they had claimed to be. They're technological bullies, Major Khalid had realized. They find less advanced species, overwhelm them with their superior technology, and incorporate them into their collective. But they've never faced a species that fought back with methods they couldn't comprehend. Now, Alina's fleet, doubled in size with hastily converted vessels from Earth and captured Axiom ships that had been reprogrammed with human primitive technology, orbited the Axiom homeworld. It was beautiful in its way. A planet surrounded by perfectly arranged orbital stations, each one a flawless geometric shape gleaming in the light of an unfamiliar sun. "They're hailing us," Lieutenant Park announced. "It's Sentinel Vax." The face that appeared on the main screen was no longer the perfect, confident visage that had addressed Earth with such condescension. Vax looked haggard, his metallic skin dulled, his glowing eyes flickering. "This incursion is unprecedented," he stated, his voice still musical but strained. "No species has ever reached the Axiom homeworld uninvited." "We're good at doing the unexpected," Alina replied. "That's the thing about humans, Sentinel. We're messy, imperfect, and incredibly adaptive." "What do you want?" Vax demanded. "You cannot hope to conquer the Axiom. Even your unexpected methods cannot overcome our homeworld defenses." Alina smiled. "We're not here to conquer you, Sentinel. We're here to negotiate, from a position of strength and mutual respect." She nodded to Dr. Sharma, who activated a specialized communication system they had developed, one that combined Axiom quantum principles with human analog redundancies. The result was a broadcast that penetrated every Axiom communication channel simultaneously, something their perfect but rigid systems had never been designed to handle. "People of the Axiom," Alina began, her message transmitting to every screen and communication device on the planet below. "I am Commander Alina Santos of Earth. We came not to destroy or conquer, but to demonstrate a truth your leaders have forgotten. Perfection is not adaptability." She gestured, and the broadcast showed images of Earth's fleet, the patchwork vessels, the repurposed satellites, the hybrid technology that combined old and new in ways the Axiom had dismissed as primitive. This is human ingenuity. We take what we have, even what others consider obsolete, and we find new ways to use it. We repair rather than replace. We adapt rather than discard. And this approach, which your leaders mocked as primitive, has brought us to your doorstep. The Axiom homeworld fell silent as Alina's words spread. For a species that had never considered the value of imperfection, the human perspective was revolutionary. We offer you a choice, Alina continued. Continue to fight us. And we will continue to adapt, to find new ways to overcome your perfect but predictable defenses, or join us in a genuine exchange of ideas and technologies, where both our peoples can learn from each other. As the broadcast ended, the bridge of the patchwork fell silent, everyone waiting for the Axiom response. It came not from Vax, but from a new face, older, with a dignity that Vax's perfect features had lacked. I am Elder Nexus of the Axiom High Council, the new alien announced. Your demonstration has caused much discussion among our people. Many are questioning principles we have held for millennia. Alina waited, outwardly calm despite her racing heart. The concept of value in imperfection is difficult for us to process, Elder Nexus admitted. Yet the evidence of its effectiveness is undeniable. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from unexpected sources, Alina replied. Indeed, the elder seemed to consider this. Perhaps both our species have something to learn. The Axiom have not faced a true challenge in generations. Your arrival has awakened us. Over the next several hours, a framework for peace emerged. The Axiom would withdraw from Earth, ending their attempt to make humanity a protectorate. In exchange, a cultural and technological exchange would begin, with strict safeguards against either side using shared knowledge against the other. As negotiations concluded, Sentinel Vax requested a private channel with Alina. You have humbled us, he admitted, his perfect features now showing something new. Respect. I did not believe it possible. That was your first mistake, Alina replied. Underestimating what humans can accomplish with limited resources, but unlimited creativity. A mistake the Axiom will not make again, Vax promised. Your junk technology, as I once called it, I begin to see its virtue. Not in its efficiency, but in its possibilities. 6 months later, Alina stood in the newly established Axiom Human Exchange Center on Earth's moon, watching as engineers from both species worked together. The contrast was striking. Axiom technicians with their perfect methodical approach working alongside humans who jury-rigged solutions and improvised with whatever was at hand. They're still struggling with the concept of good enough, Dr. Sharma observed, joining Alina by the observation window. And we're still in awe of their precision. But they're learning from us, and we're learning from them, Alina replied. That's the point. Below them, a young Axiom engineer was attempting to repair a communication array using spare parts rather than replacing the entire system, a concept that would have been heretical in Axiom culture just months ago. Nearby, human technicians were incorporating Axiom principles of efficiency into the design of a new spacecraft, creating something that neither species could have developed alone. The Scraffite fleet is being commemorated in a new museum, Sharma mentioned. They're calling it the fleet that saved Earth. Alina smiled. Not bad for a bunch of junk ships. Turns out one civilization's trash really is another civilization's treasure, or in our case, salvation. As they watched the collaboration below, Alina reflected on how close humanity had come to submission or destruction. The Axiom, with their technological superiority and dismissive attitude, had never imagined that humanity's perceived weakness, their reliance on repurposing, recycling, and improvising, would prove to be their greatest strength. You know, Alina said, I almost feel sorry for the next advanced species that comes along thinking they can push us around. Almost. Sharma asked with a raised eyebrow. Alina grinned. Almost. But not quite. Some lessons need to be learned the hard way. In the space dock beyond the observation window, a new class of ship was taking shape, one that combined axiom precision with human adaptability. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't standardized. Parts of it looked cobbled together. Others gleamed with axiom elegance. It was, Alina thought, exactly like the new relationship between their species. Imperfect, sometimes awkward, but stronger than either would have been alone. And if another threat emerged from the depths of space, they would be ready, with technology that was neither purely efficient nor purely improvised, but something new, the best of both approaches, constantly evolving, never finished. Just the way humans liked it.